Hi and welcome to another one of the Tech Geeks Rough and Ready. Today I'm going to have a look at a situation that I've got in the property that I live, and I'm going to be using one of these to fix it. Hopefully doing a little bit of tests and seeing if we can get past some of the problems or issues that people might have as well. This is the Ubiquiti UDB Switch. So this is an 8-port PoE switch that is Wi-Fi enabled, not to give out Wi-Fi, but to receive or connect to a Wi-Fi signal. So the idea is you've already got Ubiquiti UniFi Wi-Fi in your property, but maybe at one end, my end is the kitchen. It's about 10 meters away from where my Wi-Fi access points are. This house was built with better concrete filled walls, and the cables that actually run were Cat5. So they were missing two of the wires in our normal 8. So as a result, I can't get full speed, and some of it was only 4 wires, so I've had to join a few wires together to be able to give me PoE in location. So I want to be able to put in a Intercom Viewer. I want to actually see if I can put in another wireless access point down there, and I want to put in a camera. Those are my key things that I want to do. But like I said, I've got no cables down there, I've just got power. Also, if this works, I'll replicate this then. Might do it in another video at the portico at my front gate as well, where I've got a intercom and some cameras. But this video is all about how I'm going to do it with this. So this is going to connect wirelessly back to my access point, and then obviously is going to repeat my network actually as a physical layer down here. And so I'm going to hopefully be able to plug in my camera, which is going to get PoE power from here. I'm going to be able to plug in my other access point. I've got a U6 Enterprise in-wall that I'd like to power from this, and my Intercom Viewer. It should be able to do all my VLANs and everything else as well, but I thought I'd just step this through as we go. Most of it's going to be done on the computer, but I want to just do this little bit of an introduction and then just jump straight in. So on the desk here, so what we've got, obviously we've got a few of the bits ready. I've got my, let me move the PoE injector because that's not relevant over here. Going to put my switch on here so we can leave this camera running and see what's happened. We're just going to power that up. Remember, we're not going to be able to need to connect this to our network using Ethernet cables at all. This is going to wirelessly connect. So actually up behind me here is my wireless access point. This is a U6 Pro. It doesn't run the 6 gigahertz, or I've not got the 6 gigahertz enabled on it. So we're just going to be concentrating on just standard wireless 6 on the 5 gigahertz and see how this unit performs. So like I said, I've got everything here set up on the desk. It's already powered up. We're going to let that power up. We're going to go on the computer and adopt it. Once it's all adopted, then we will add some of these devices and get them all working on the bench. And then just do a speed test so we can see how well it works, just a meter or so away from the access point. And then we'll do our normal Wi-Fi tests, which we do at, through 1 concrete wall at 5 meters, through 3 concrete walls at 10 meters. And we'll see even if it manages out at 4 concrete walls at about 15 meters as well. I'm not sure it's going to reach that far. It's not designed for a long distance Wi-Fi. It's designed for that repeating over maybe 10 meters or so. But I want to just see how it might work with concrete there as well. So let's jump on the computer and see where we go from there. Okay, so let me just show you around here. This is my EFG that I'm running. Got all of our access points in here. You'll see our U6 Enterprise is already currently connected, but it has poor connection speed here. And as a result, that's one of the things I want to replace and move this to be connected by the UDB. But all I've done is actually turn the UDB on. And obviously we're just mains power. And it's found its way already for the Wi-Fi network here. So I can already see this waiting to be adopted. So let's just click adopt and let that work through that process. Now, one thing I've noticed is it probably does take about 2 to 3 minutes for the actual device itself to boot up. The adopting process, last time I've done this, does seem to a couple of minutes as well, but hopefully you'll be able to see that on the screen as that goes through this process and gets this adopted into the system. This works just in the same way as all of the others. In fact, it's going to look fairly similar to the UDB that I've got here connected for part of my gate, and it's going to have a very similar indicator on the front of it once it's actually adopted. Yours obviously might go through and need to do some software updates as well, or you might want to run that before you do anything. So let's just let this run the course. And hopefully you'll then be able to see very shortly that fully adopted, and we can start some of the configuration. All right, we can actually see now it's searching for the network. that it's picked up as part of the adopting. And in a moment, this will finish joining the wireless network. Remember, there's nothing else plugged in. This has done this all completely wirelessly. And this should then start to show us our signal strength once it's actually adopted into place. All right, you can actually see now it's finished adopting, and we have got a signal strength on there of -41. Remember, -72 is probably our good indication. Once we get below -72 and the negative number gets bigger, then we're probably a little bit too far away to get good connectivity. So we'll see as we go further away what happens. We've got some channel information on there, but if we head back onto the computer, we should actually now be able to see this is fully adopted into here. Again, we've got a mirror of that signal strength. We can see on here that none of the ports are actually being used at this moment in time. We've got the details of the firmware, what device it's actually connected to, and I'm going to fix this one in a minute to make sure that everything works as it needs to. And it's also showing at what speed or what its ability is actually connected at there. And it says it's connected using Wi-Fi 7. So we can see all the information from the stats as normal. And then we can go over to settings. I'm going to call this kitchen switch UDB. All right, so I know how to find this. This, you can see it's chosen. You could choose some of the other access points if it saw them, but this has meshed to this. This is the one that I really wanted to stay on, especially because I'm going to add another wireless access point. I really don't quite understand that bit. If it connects to a wireless network, are we going to have problems when it then has another access point connected to it that's going to try and broadcast another network? So that will be an interesting one to explore shortly. Then it's running on the inbuilt 60 watt PoE injector. That gives us, I think, about 30 watts of usable power, or 35 watts, which should be good for my viewer, a camera, and the other access points. That should be within inside it. Our network overrides here is if we wanted to force this to be on a different VLAN than it is. Our brightness control, obviously we can change our whether we set this on a static or a DHCP. Because we're on a wireless network, I'd probably suggest you keep that on DHCP. Remember, this is the screen on the front of this has got nighttime mode. Most people forget this and think that thing's broken. It's from sort of like 10 o'clock at night till 8 a.m. Like it's set up here because it turns the screen off. So do remember, if the screen turns off, that is a reason why. So we're just going to apply those settings to it. And we're now at that stage we can work out what we need to do. This is on what we call VLAN 1. So this is it. This is our unique internal where we put all of our switches and everything to manage, and then each port or whatever sits on a different VLAN. So we're now going to take, I think one of the ports does 10 gig, and one of the and the rest of the ports do 2.5. I can't remember which way round it is. So let's just quickly have a look on the switch to be sure. So having a look on here, we can actually see that port 8 over here is our 10 gig. All the other ports are 2.5s. So let's plug in my viewer, or get ready to plug my viewer in. I'm not going to actually plug it in until I've set my VLAN. That's going to go into port 1. So port 1 here, over here, I'm going to go to port manager, just the same as we would do in anything else. And I'm actually going to work on this port. I like to put this on here. So I'm going to put Intercom Viewer. All right, so for my Intercom Viewer, this needs to be on VLAN 30. So we're going to set it on there. I don't want it to have any other traffic, but I do need it to have power on there. So I'm actually going to put that kitchen. Right, there we go. So that will have that one set up, and we'll get that one setting up in a moment. I'm actually then going to use this 10 gig port here at the back, and I'm going to put my U6 Enterprise in wool. All right, now this one needs to be on this management VLAN because it's going to need to rebroadcast all of my VLANs that I have available in wireless. So that'll be an interesting one when we get to that point of plugging that in to see how that goes. And then on my port 2, I'm just going to put kitchen, and at the moment it's a G6 Turret, probably will change to be something different. And again, that needs to be on the homeland network and block all the other VLANs, because that's the network there that I have all of my current UniFi Protect equipment on. We could run it on different VLANs and get it to do some routing, but just as the point of this, just want to make this super simple and easy. So I'm just going to finish letting that do that, and I'm just going to quickly now move over, and we'll just plug both the camera in and the viewer. So viewer was going to go into port 1 there, and the camera is going to go into port 2. All right, so those should now actually start up. All right, and we'll be able to get those configured. And so the idea really now is, once those are started up, just want to know that they're actually working. What we'll probably try and do then is start doing some of the speed tests, which will show slightly differently on the screen, the speeds that we get for each location as we move that little setup to the kitchen. And then once it's all in the position in the kitchen, then I'll add that extra Wi-Fi access point, and we'll see how everything starts to come together from there. Now this is pretty positive. We can see that this is already got some speed going. Obviously these are just fast Ethernet wire. That's okay, because the G6 Turret only has a 100 meg Ethernet port. Does that matter? No, because even in 4K we wouldn't be probably streaming more than 26 megasecond, so that's not a problem. The same as the viewer. So all of those themselves are actually working. So what I'm going to now do is I'm just going to flick over to my Protect setup, and we're just going to check that that intercom is actually up and running. In fact, it should already be paired with the setup. So I just actually double check on the screen. You can probably see that already if it has logged on and is working. And yes, in fact, it's already set up with all of the cameras that it can have. Some of the ones on there that it doesn't need anymore, but you can actually see there that it's already paired with the two main ones, which is this one here, although it says that it can't connect to it, probably because it needs a little bit of work yet on the screen. So we'll just get that tidied up in a few moments anyway, so I know that it's actually working. But on the whole, you can see that everything there is functional. Okay, so let me just quickly open a new window for UniFi Access, which I've done here. I can see that my two readers need an update here, the intercom and the reader. I also realized here that we did some tests with this Intercom Viewer in a different setup, and that's why it's not showing as paired up correctly in here. So I'm just going to need to do a factory reset of that, and then that will be readopted into this setup, and then should be working. All right, just a quick hold in there as normal for about 10 seconds till it does what it needs to do. Blank screened, rebooting. That one's off and rebooting. This should be fine. The camera's already fine because that was already adopted into a previous network. All right, so we're just going to give this a couple of moments, and then hopefully we should see this back in here ready to adopt. Okay, so you can see I've reset it. It's now sitting ready to be adopted. So let's get the adoption for that device underway. Probably just rename this as we had before, Kitchen Intercom Viewer. All right, if you've not done this before, continuous real-time monitoring means that this will display continually the video coming from the main door. It does time itself out after a while, but it does mean that it will show it when you touch the screen and not just wait for a visitor to come and update or push the button on the doorbell. I'm also going to now just push this to the latest version as well. So we just give that a couple of moments for all of these to update, and then we can confirm everything's working correctly. So as you can see, everything's now updated. If we just spin back here, we can see we've shoveled over 700 meg here. We've got a continuous stream of about 8 megasecond or 7.5 there coming from our 4K camera. So that shows our data is working back. The Intercom Viewer obviously is freshly adopted. If you've not done this, we need to add it as a receiver. And then it will display the cameras all of the time, or our readers all of the time. So I've got a reader at the front door. Whoops. I've got a reader at the front door and also on the portico. So I just need to add that into there and save that. So if I quickly look at the desk, you can see that already. So you can see here, it does need a real bit of a reboot. I do find sometimes that the viewer gets a little bit confused of what it should be actually doing on here. It has various options for here for reorder, but all I need to know on here is it actually is working and can unlock the door and do everything that we need from there. So we can see that this is now live, it's receiving a stream. This is now live because we could see it was shedding data, and this is connected. So now we've got all of this together. We can start doing a speed test, and then from that speed test we can start to move it through the different locations for the speed test just to see what we're going to get, and then eventually put this in its final location. So let's carry on and get those speed tests done, and then we should be able to collect it together and put it in its final position and see how it performs. Okay, so now we're at the speed test bit. How we're going to do this, very simple. I've got a laptop with an Ethernet card connected to port 7 of our UDB switch. If we just remind ourselves, we can go back to our UDB switch, which is over here, and actually have a look. We can see it's got really good signal strength here, minus 40 dB. So that's going to be something we're going to look at each time we go along. We can see it's connected to a 5 gigahertz channel at 80 megahertz. Now we could have pushed that up potentially to 160, but I'm connected to an already configured network. So my port manager is already set, as we can see. Laptop's already configured and connected. Let me just pop over here. So IP config, just so you can see that we've got an IP address in the range we're testing. So 172.20.21. We're going to test in that range. Let's run this here with 10 streams at the moment. We've got a 10 gig a second iPerf server. You can see there that we're only connected at 1 gig because I don't have a 2.5 gigabit a second Ethernet card in this. But let's just see what we're going to get. So we can see we've got 500, 600, 636, 628 megabits a second. Remember, we've got a camera already streaming 8 megabits a second of traffic on here anyway. So that's actually a pretty good result. So let's just push it up to a number of streams. We're just trying to saturate that line out just to see if we can push any more speed if it's there. 643, 675, still really, really good speeds, probably with a bit of optimization of the Wi-Fi network. Could probably get that a little bit more. We'll try at 25, 700. I think we're starting to get to the maximum. We'll push it at 30, but we'll probably won't see anything higher than that 700 that we've seen. And that will just give us a baseline then to test the others at. So as you can see, we've now oversaturated the line. So we're actually running at a bit of a slower speed. So it looks like the best location there is around about 25. And obviously it will fluctuate because this is wireless. We've dropped a little bit there at the moment, sitting at 500. But we could see our top end there was 711. So what we'll now do is we're going to repeat that through one concrete wall at about 5 meters. And we'll see what results we can get for that. Okay, so obviously move to the new location, takes a couple of minutes, probably about 3 minutes for it to boot up. Let's just have a little look on here. You can see we were at minus 40 before, we're now at minus 58. So one concrete wall at about 5 meters. So still a fairly good result. Let's just now hop on over to the computer. We knew that there's the good spot here was at about 25 streams. So let's run 25 streams straight out and see what we get. So 450, 470, 400. Remember when we were close up, we had peaked there at about 700. Let me just try this just at 20 streams, just to see whether that works a little bit better. As the signal strength drops, we may just need to drop the number of streams to just see how much we can get. But still with the camera, remember we've got a camera still streaming as well. Remember Wi-Fi isn't full duplex, so if we max one side of it out, the other will struggle. So we don't have the same upload as download speed. So we are just trying to look for the maximum speeds we can get. So at 5 meters, I'm pretty comfortable there. We're sitting at just between 450 and 500 megabits a second, sometimes seeing a little bit more than that 513 there now, for example. So let's move this to the next location again, which is through 3 concrete walls and at about 10 meters, and see whether we can still make it work at that distance. Okay, so that one was a bit more of an interesting because I've got a number of access points within inside the property. So when I went to 10 meters with 3 concrete walls, this immediately moved to connecting to one of the other closest access points, even though up here I actually set it to use office, but it seemed to ignore that totally. So what I actually had to do is I had to actually go and choose the back patio, which it connected to, let it connect to that, and then go back and put it back to what I wanted to connect to, which is the office one, so I could test the distance. And ultimately, it went to isolated mode and then came back online. So this, as you can see at the moment, let me just have a look at the dB level there, is pretty shocking. It's sort of roughly acceptable, -82. Remember, we've got 3 concrete walls at 10 meters. So I'm putting this a little bit more to its extreme. So let us just quickly do that test. Here we go. All right, and see what we can get, whether we can get any connection at this. So let's just run this with 25 streams out, and let's see what happens and what we're going to get back. Nothing. There we go. 300 meg. Struggling a little bit there. Okay, so 50 meg. So let's just bring this back to 10 to start with. So 10 streams. Try and see if we can get this a little bit more consistent. It's probably not ideal suited, but there you go, 100 meg between, well, there you go, sitting, it fluctuating a bit. You could probably work that a little bit more. So hopefully that gives you an idea. Look, we could extend that and take away the concrete walls and probably get a little bit more different distance. But I think at this sort of 10 meters is probably more of the distance that I would think. If I've got no other obstructions, then maybe I could probably get to 15 meters and still be getting close to 100 megaseconds. So I'm quite comfortable with that now as what I want. So I can now put that in my final position, but should give you at least an idea of those. I'm not going to try and put it at 15 meters and 4 concrete walls. I think it probably still will connect. It will just obviously be down to 5 or 6 megasecond, which really isn't worth it for this sort of type of test. But obviously if you've got other wireless access points, like I have some outside ones, some upstairs, then it's possible that it will synchronize with those or mesh with those and get a slightly better connection for where you are. So this now allows me to go and put this in the location I want it to, and we'll get it set up there and see what it performs like in their location. Okay, so I've got the switch in its final location. Let's have a little look. I've meshed it to one of the other access points that it's going to be slightly closer to. This one is probably almost directly above it, but probably about 5 meters above it through probably 50, well, it's probably 50 centimeters, a half meter of concrete flooring. You can see that it's got a fairly low, -80 dB, still getting some pretty good speeds, like I said, around about the 100 megasecond from that at the moment, but that's put that finally there in place. I've been able to attach up that enterprise access point. So I've got that one running. This one says this device is meshed with a wireless AP. To improve wireless, consider plugging this AP into a switch or meshing it. Interestingly, I think that that is potentially confused. We'll have a work through just to make sure that it doesn't believe that it is meshed, because it is actually physically, there we go, we'll probably want to turn those options off so that it actually is going to be wired through the UDB itself. We can see it's getting a 2.5 gig Ethernet port connection, so it should be getting that correctly, but it looks like there that it was set to allow meshing to happen. To an uplink, we don't want that, and just check that out. So we don't really want it, I don't really want it to be able to do either of those functions. So having turned that off, everything once it's rebooted should fix those set of errors up, and that should become a wired access point. That hopefully gives you an idea. So we've been able to do some VLANs. Remember, we were able to do that. So if we go back into our UDB switch using our port manager, we've got some different VLANs on there. We've been able to successfully connect this. We've done some speed testing there as well. We can see close up, maybe up to about 700 megasecond. Hopefully that just shows you how simple this was to actually make this work. And I'm sure there's many scenarios where you can make this work. Maybe where you've got a small home office and you've got a printer or something like that and you want to be able to wire it all together as well. This could work for you. Just be aware of the distance and how many walls it needs to go through and the type of walls that make those up to get the best signal. But hopefully that's been useful. Head on over to our YouTube channel. Got plenty more how-tos, rough and readies. Hopefully there's some gold in there that you'll find useful. So subscribe and stay up to date.